9 mornings in a row, the golden retriever had done the same thing. On the morning they finally stopped correcting him, they found out why. Hazel was a 4-year-old golden retriever, the compact, red gold kind, 54 pounds. A dog who had spent 3 years being described by their neighbors as the easiest animal they'd ever seen. She was consistent, warm, undemanding, calibrated. She did not make scenes. She did not insist. Which is why 9 consecutive mornings of the same insistent behavior had become, by day 4, something that sat uneasily in Marcus Wheeler's chest, and by day 7, something his wife Yolanda had started calling a compulsion, and by day 9, something they had agreed needed professional intervention. Every morning, between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m., during breakfast, while their 19-month-old son Tobias sat in his high chair eating, Hazel came. She rose on her rear legs, placed her front paws on the tray of the high chair, and pressed her nose toward Tobias's face. Toward his mouth specifically, she inhaled, slowly, 3 or 4 times, then lowered herself back to the floor and watched him eat. Marcus corrected her the first 3 times with the techniques that had always worked. She accepted the correction completely and returned within 2 minutes. Yolanda tried redirecting her with a toy. Hazel took the toy, put it down, and returned to the high chair. By day 6, Marcus had started confining her to the living room during breakfast. She scratched at the baby gate with a patience that was somehow more alarming than urgency. Day 8, they let her through the gate because the scratching was upsetting Tobias more than the dog's face near his breakfast. She went directly to the high chair and did what she had been doing every morning for a week. Marcus stood and watched it and tried to describe it accurately to himself. Not aggressive, not food-driven. She wasn't interested in the tray, only in the proximity to the child's face. Not anxiety, something focused, repeated, purposeful, the behavior of an animal running through a checklist every morning and coming up with an answer she couldn't communicate any other way. On day 9, Yolanda called her mother and described the behavior. Her mother said, "That's odd. What's she smelling?" Yolanda said she didn't know. Her mother said, "Maybe find out before you correct it again. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one." On day 10, they took Tobias to his pediatrician before breakfast. Not because of the dog. They had scheduled this appointment the week before for a routine check. But Yolanda mentioned Hazel's behavior at the end of the appointment, almost as an afterthought. The pediatrician, Dr. Paul Nwankwo, looked at Tobias during the exam with slightly more attention after that. He noted that Tobias's breath had an unusual quality. Faintly fruity, the kind of smell that should not be present in a toddler's normal breath. He ordered blood work. Tobias's blood glucose came back at 44 milligrams per deciliter. His breath acetone level was elevated. He was in the early stages of diabetic ketoacidosis, a condition that in a child this age, if undetected, progresses to a medical emergency within hours to days. Dr. Nwankwo referred them immediately to pediatric endocrinology. Tobias was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes that afternoon. The ketone compounds in Tobias's breath that produce the characteristic fruity odor are detectable to a dog at parts per trillion concentration, thousands of times below the human olfactory threshold. Hazel had been detecting the compound every morning at breakfast, when Tobias was post-sleep and his glucose levels were at their daily extremes. She had been reporting what she found every morning for 9 days. Marcus and Yolanda had been correcting her for 9 days. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. Dr. Nwankwo, when they told him about Hazel's behavior in full, said, "Dogs have been documented detecting type 1 diabetes before diagnosis in numerous clinical cases." What she was doing at his face every morning was exactly what a medical alert dog is trained to do. She just learned it herself. He paused. "She found it for 9 days before you checked. That's a remarkable dog." They drove home with Tobias's diagnosis and a management plan, and more information than either of them could hold. Hazel met them at the door. She went to Tobias's carrier, rose slightly, pressed her nose toward his face, inhaled. Then she exhaled and walked to her bed and lay down. It was the first morning she hadn't gone to the high chair. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Tobias is 2 now. He wears a continuous glucose monitor. Hazel still comes to him in the morning. She checks. Every single morning she checks.